4 Super Bowl rings, 16 seasons without missing a game, 1,105 career tackles.
Romanowski coming from the outside, picked up, Ward Dunn lets him go, throw the screen to him.
By every measurable standard, Bill Romanowski was one of the greatest linebackers in NFL history. But behind the rings, behind the records, behind the legend, there was a man willing to go further than anyone else on that field.
It took me a while to develop it.
Better go out of bounds. I'm coming.
Further than what was legal, further than what was safe. And now, at 60 years old, he is facing a battle that makes every brutal hit he ever delivered look like a warm-up.
Then you just don't get to run out on that field and do what you love to do.
A federal court has essentially handed him a financial death sentence. And the legends of the NFL, they have plenty to say about it. Bill Romanowski is now at the center of a massive financial and legal crisis, facing a recommended federal court judgment to pay $15.5 million in unpaid taxes, penalties, and interest.
But just whatever it was, I just snapped it.
This is the full story. Let's get into it. The man behind the monster. William Thomas Romanowski was born on April 2, 1966 in Vernon, Connecticut, in a working-class household where money was always tight and ambition was not optional. His father pushed him toward athletics from a young age, but basketball was never going to be his game. Football was. And from the moment he picked it up, Romanowski attacked it with a ferocity that genuinely frightened people around him. The obsession started early. He idolized Herschel Walker, and according to Romanowski himself, he treated Walker's legendary workout routine, over 100,000 push-ups and 100,000 sit-ups per year, as gospel. It transformed him. He went from a 5'9", 140-pound freshman in high school to a college-ready physical specimen by the time his senior year came around. He graduated from Rockville High School in 1984 and went on to Boston College. At Boston College, Romanowski immediately proved he belonged. He was relentless, disciplined in a way that bordered on obsessive. While teammates were out having fun, Romanowski was sleeping 8 hours minimum, studying nutrition, treating his body like a machine. He once said, describing that mindset, "While my friends were out until 4 or 5 in the morning, my self-imposed curfews were designed to ensure 8 hours of sleep, minimum." That is the kind of person we are dealing with. Not just talented, completely consumed.
Romanowski coming from the outside, picked up, Ward Dunn lets him go, throw the screen to him.
Romanowski played college football for the Boston College Eagles, receiving second-team All-American honors in 1987, and was selected by the 49ers in the 3rd round of the 1988 NFL Draft. The pick turned out to be one of the great steals of that era, because the man they were getting, he would stop at absolutely nothing to win. Nothing. And that worked brilliantly for 16 seasons, until it very much did not. Entering the dynasty. The 49ers' years landing in San Francisco in 1988 was the best possible thing that could have happened to a young, hungry, and slightly unhinged linebacker. The 49ers were in the middle of their dynasty, surrounded by future Hall of Famers on every side of the ball. They had greats like Jerry Rice, John Taylor, Brent Jones, and Roger Craig. And Romanowski? He was a 3rd-round pick trying to survive. So he made himself impossible to ignore. He described his strategy with perfect clarity in his own words. If Jerry Rice caught a 10-yard pass in practice and took it all the way to the end zone and scored, I knew the coach's eyes were on Jerry, so I just started racing him to the end zone every time he caught a ball, and eventually I would beat him there. Full sprint. When they saw Jerry, they were also going to see me right behind him, hustling my ass off. But Romanowski was not just a grinder making up for lack of talent with effort. He was genuinely terrifying on the practice field. A young Bill Romanowski famously infuriated teammate Harris Barton and others by taking undue shots at Jerry Rice during San Francisco 49ers practices. Think about that for a second. This is Jerry Rice, the greatest wide receiver in NFL history, and Romanowski was out there leveling him in training camp. Former 49ers tight end Brent Jones once said, "He didn't care who you were, he'd drill you." One of the things I remember was, in training camp, him going after Jerry Rice. Rice himself never publicly went after Romanowski for it. But according to Jones, Romanowski's behavior in practice was the stuff of legend, both inspiring and genuinely alarming. The mentorship he received from veterans like Ronnie Lott shaped him too. When Lott told the young linebacker that letting an opponent push him around was unacceptable, and that he himself would come after him if it happened again, something inside Romanowski snapped wide open. He became a weapon, a man who played each snap like it was the last play of a Super Bowl, because in his mind, it always was. Shannon Sharpe and the spitting incident. Now, here is where things get messy, and this is the moment that defined how the football world truly saw Bill Romanowski. December 15, 1997. Monday Night Football, the Denver Broncos against the San Francisco 49ers. Romanowski was playing for Denver at this point, and in a heated moment with 49ers wide receiver J.J. Stokes, Romanowski did something that shocked an entire nation watching on live television. He spit directly in Stokes' face. The NFL fined him a laughable $7,500 for it, and that is when Shannon Sharpe, at the time Romanowski's own Denver Broncos teammate, made his feelings crystal clear. Two of Romanowski's black teammates, Shannon Sharpe and Willie Green, said they thought the fine should have been stiffer. Sharpe said, "I think that's the worst thing you can do to a person, especially of our background and our race, is to spit in his face. Let that sink in." Shannon Sharpe, a man who went to war alongside Romanowski every single week, still called him out publicly. That is how extreme the incident was. And Sharpe did not stop there. Later in his broadcasting career, Sharpe made it clear he thought Romanowski's entire on-field persona was fraudulent, famously saying that Romanowski didn't play because he was talented, he played because he cheated the system. Romanowski pushed back, of course. His response was to essentially dare anyone to question his 16 years of production. He said, "Mike Ditka, I didn't play for Mike Ditka. Mike Ditka had a lot of success in the NFL, and I think if all my good hits were just hits out of bounds, I don't think I would have lasted 16 years and started as many games as I started and played for as many great teams as I did." Bold words from a man who had just spit on someone on national television. Romanowski himself acknowledged afterwards, saying, "What I did was wrong, and I hold myself accountable for my actions. I have to live with it. I have to live with it the rest of my life. But living with it and learning from it? Two very different things, because the incidents kept coming." The year of fines, a highlight reel of violence. After his career, Romanowski was listed by ESPN as the 5th dirtiest player in professional team sports history. 5th dirtiest, not in football, in all professional team sports. And when you look at the rap sheet, it is honestly hard to argue otherwise. In 1995, while with the Eagles, he was ejected from a game and fined $4,500 for kicking Arizona Cardinals fullback Larry Centers in the head. Kicking a man in the head during a professional football game. Two more incidents occurred during the 1997 season while he played for the Broncos. In the first, he was fined $20,000 after a helmet-to-helmet hit on then Carolina Panthers quarterback Kerry Collins in a preseason game, resulting in Collins sustaining a broken jaw.
Kerry Collins' broken jaw may cost him the first month of Carolina's regular season.
2 years later, while still with the Broncos, he was fined a total of $40,500 for 3 illegal hits plus a punch thrown at Kansas City Chiefs tight end Tony Gonzalez, and was also fined an undisclosed amount for throwing a football at Brian Cox of the New York Jets, the ball hitting him in the crotch area. Football to the crotch during a game. Romanowski was fined more than $100,000 throughout his career for his behavior, and yet, the man never missed a game. Romanowski played 243 consecutive games during the 1988 to 2003 seasons, an NFL record that stood until Chris Gardocki broke it during the 2006 season. That is the twisted genius of Bill Romanowski. More violent than almost anyone who ever laced up a cleat, and also more durable. You could argue he was the most difficult player in NFL history to keep off the field, and he used every single one of those games to inflict maximum punishment on anyone wearing a different jersey, or sometimes the same jersey. Jerry Rice and the practice field wars. Speaking of the same jersey, let us talk about Jerry Rice, because Romanowski's relationship with the greatest receiver in NFL history is genuinely one of the most fascinating and strange dynamics in football history. When Romanowski arrived in San Francisco in 1988, Rice was already a superstar, an icon. a man you simply did not mess with, especially not in practice. Yet as Rice dug into his route during one practice, Romanowski leveled him. A fracas between Romanowski and offensive lineman Harris Barton ensued. Jerry Rice. He hit Jerry Rice, and it did not stop there. According to reporters who covered the team closely, Romanowski's fight in practice with Harris Barton was not an isolated incident. He also got into practice altercations with Fred McCrary, Bubba Paris, and yes, Jerry Rice himself. When asked directly why he would get into a fight with a teammate in practice, Romanowski's answer was vintage Romo. He essentially refused to accept the framing of the question, saying, "I played football for 16 years. It's a very violent sport. You get into training camp where there's fights that happen every day on the practice field." To him, it was just Tuesday. Now, Rice was later identified as a potential witness in the Marcus Williams lawsuit, a fact that tells you just how intertwined these two men's careers had become. Rice, the man Romanowski had once bulldozed in practice, was now potentially in a position to testify about his character in a courtroom, only in the NFL. The Marcus Williams incident, the line that ended a career. And now we arrive at the moment that ended Bill Romanowski's career. Not a collision with an opponent, not a brutal sack, but a single punch thrown at his own teammate in training camp. August 24, 2003. Oakland Raiders training camp. Teammate Bill Romanowski took Marcus Williams's helmet off and punched him in the face, breaking his left eye socket and chipping a tooth. According to Williams's attorney, the linebacker struck Williams with such force that it produced a sickening sound that could be heard 15 yards away. Williams fell to the ground unconscious, and when he came to, he looked up and saw Romanowski standing over him. Williams testified that the attack broke his left eye socket, shortened his memory, gave him double vision and depression, and ended his career after less than 2 seasons. His football career gone at 27 years old because his own teammate lost his mind during a practice drill. His football career ended at age 27. The incident led to Williams being placed on injured reserve, and after weighing his options, he decided to file a civil suit against Romanowski in the hopes of securing $3.8 million in damages. Romanowski apologized publicly 2 days later. He stood in front of cameras and said, "I hold myself accountable. It was a classless move by me." But did he seem crushed by what he had done? Not exactly. Because during the actual trial, Williams says that Romanowski looked across the room at him and winked. He winked at the man whose career he had destroyed. In the end, a jury ruled against Romanowski and awarded Williams $340,000, $300,000 for lost salary, and another $40,000 for medical expenses. The two sides later settled for a total of $415,000. That incident, coming in the final year of his career, was the last act of on-field madness from Bill Romanowski. But it was also, as we now know, just a preview of the chaos that would define his life off the field. The steroids, Balco, and the truth. Here is the thing about Romanowski that made everyone else in football simultaneously furious and impressed. He was not just violent, he was chemically enhanced while being violent. The most notable football player involved in the Balco scandal was two-time All-Pro linebacker Bill Romanowski. Balco, the Bay Area Laboratory Cooperative, was the notorious sports doping operation that supplied designer steroids to some of the most famous athletes in the world. And Romanowski was not just a peripheral figure, he was a cornerstone client. He admitted that he took illegal steroids from spring 2001 to fall 2003.
Victor Conte, who was the architect of a scheme to provide undetectable performance-enhancing drugs to professional athletes,
and got them from Victor Conte, head of the infamous Bay Area Lab Cooperative that supplied dietary supplements, including steroids. Conte gave him bullet-sized vials of a foul-tasting gold liquid. It was a new anabolic steroid the NFL was not testing for, known as THG, what Conte called the clear. Romanowski's own words are staggering in their candor. "It wasn't about illegal. I was doing things that they couldn't test for. As soon as they found out that something could be tested for, I stopped taking it. I didn't want that embarrassment, but I pushed that envelope ethically and morally because if I could take something that would help me perform better, and it wasn't on the list, I was going to take it." And the most painful moment from all of it, his son heard about steroids at school and came home to ask his father the question no parent ever wants to hear. Romanowski said, "The embarrassment to my family and friends, to teammates, team owners, and the league, that hurt, and ultimately a little boy boy looked up to his dad and he said, "Dad, do you do drugs? And that one hurt me more than anything." His answer to his son, "Dalton, Daddy did a lot of things to deal with the pain of the game. And speaking of that pain, there were many hits over a career lasting 243 consecutive regular season games that left Romanowski with as many as 20 documented concussions and brain damage that could be permanent. The steroids, the concussions, the violence, it was all one tangled, relentless machine. And the machine eventually consumed everything." The IRS closes in, $15.5 million. Fast forward to retirement. The rings are in a display case. The career stats are locked in the record books. The two-time Pro Bowler finished his career with 105 tackles, 39.5 sacks, 18 interceptions, and 18 forced fumbles. By every measure, he should have been able to sit back and enjoy an extraordinary legacy. Instead, the IRS came knocking, and they were not quiet about it. The trouble began years ago with the IRS and Department of Justice accusing the Romanowskis of failing to pay federal income taxes from 1998 to 2004 and again in 2007. That is not a typo. The tax problem started while he was still winning Super Bowls. The IRS sought to finally collect on a ballooning tax bill for the couple dating back 25 years, one that had grown by millions of dollars since authorities first won a court decision a decade ago. And here is where it gets truly wild. According to court filings, the Romanowskis used their nutrition supplement company, Nutrition 53, to pay for personal expenses, everything from rent and groceries to their children's living costs and even spa visits. But the government was more specific than that. The Department of Justice says the Romanowskis improperly used Nutrition 53 accounts to pay for their personal rent, groceries, veterinarian bills, and over 170 visits to nail salons, hair salons, and day spas. Over 170 visits to day spas and nail salons billed to the company, while owing $15.5 million to the IRS. That is some nerve right there. Legal documents indicate that in 2013 the courts ruled against the couple, and the Department of Justice alleges that it was then that they began using the nutritional company's assets to satisfy personal debt and cover expenses. So they lost in tax court in 2013, and the response was to dig in deeper, to use the business as a personal piggy bank for over a decade. The bankruptcy gambit and the default judgment, and the craziest part, when the government finally came for them with a full civil lawsuit, the Romanowskis played their last card. The bankruptcy filing came at a pivotal moment, less than 24 hours before a scheduled hearing in the civil case that Department of Justice lawyers had brought against the couple. One day before court, they filed for bankruptcy one day before court. The bankruptcy court later converted their case to Chapter 7, which allows for the liquidation of assets to pay creditors, including the IRS. But it gets worse. They did not just file once. A day before a court hearing last April, the Romanowskis filed a notice of bankruptcy, a move that, under bankruptcy law, automatically stayed the case. The stay was lifted a few weeks later when a bankruptcy judge dismissed the bankruptcy petition. The Romanowskis then filed a second notice of bankruptcy, which again stayed the case. 2 bankruptcy filings, back to back. In a hearing last October, an attorney for the Romanowskis confirmed the couple was aware of the lawsuit and assured the court they planned to mount a defense. The attorney also said the Romanowskis were overwhelmed by the situation and needed more time. The court provided more time, but no defense was mounted. The judge was not impressed, not even a little. The judge reasoned that there is only a minimal possibility of a dispute concerning the underlying fact that the Romanowskis owe the government money for unpaid federal income tax assessments. The judge further criticized the Romanowskis for failing to answer or otherwise respond to the allegations despite ample opportunity to do so. Although their attorney suggested they planned to dispute the amount owed, the couple provided no specific arguments, legal support, or evidence to indicate how they intended to raise such a defense. Talk about a no-win situation. The Department of Justice moved for a default judgment, and U.S. Magistrate Judge Peter H. Kang agreed, recommending that the Romanowskis be ordered to pay the full amount. NFL legends react, and nobody is surprised. So what does the NFL world make of all this? When the news broke about Romanowski's tax catastrophe, it rippled through the football community, and the reactions ranged from genuine sadness to barely concealed satisfaction. Shannon Sharpe, the man who once called Romanowski out while being his own teammate, had already gone on record years before saying that Romanowski's success came from cheating the system rather than talent. Sharpe has never softened that assessment. And watching Romanowski now face the consequences of financial deception, the same pattern of cutting corners, the same belief that rules simply do not apply to him. A lot of people around the league saw an unmistakable parallel. Jerry Rice, for his part, had been on a different side of this story entirely. He had watched Romanowski's career both as a teammate and as a potential witness in the Williams trial. Rice knows better than almost anyone that Romanowski's intensity was real, and that on the right day, playing alongside him was genuinely valuable. But Rice also knows what happens when a man has no off switch, when the same obsession that drives someone to sprint to the end zone in practice also drives them to believe that tax laws, courts, and federal judgments simply do not apply to them. The broader reaction from former players has been one of grim recognition. Bill Romanowski's ongoing legal problems have done little to improve his already seriously tarnished reputation among older football fans, because the story is always the same. A man who was incapable of playing within the rules on the field turned out to be incapable of living within the rules off it. Romanowski said it hurts to know some people will view his 16-year career through a lens blurred by controversy and legal troubles, but he is certain of one thing: I believe in my heart that there's nobody on planet Earth who wanted it as bad as I did. And honestly, maybe that is true. But wanting it badly and taking what was not yours to take are two very different things. Romanowski spent a career walking that line, and now a federal court has made clear that the line has finally caught up with him. If the court's recommendation is adopted, the Romanowskis will owe $15.5 million to the IRS, and the government could seize their assets, including those held by Nutrition 53. Their financial future is in serious jeopardy, and the case serves as a stark warning about the consequences of ignoring tax obligations, no matter how successful or famous you might be. 4 Super Bowl rings, a consecutive games record that stood for years, over 1,100 career tackles and 39.5 career sacks, a legacy that should have been nothing but football greatness, and instead, it ends here, in a California courtroom, fighting the IRS over $15.5 million and over 170 spa visits charged to a protein shake company. The longer I played the game and the harder I pushed and the more I went over the line, Romanowski once admitted, I went further and further away from who I am. In that way, I feel like it lowered my level of consciousness. Maybe. But at some point, a man has to take responsibility for the choices he made. And right now, the federal government is making sure of exactly that. Which part of Romanowski's story hit you the hardest? The on-field violence, the steroids, or the $15.5 million tax nightmare? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section. And before you leave, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to NFL Rivals so you don't miss the next ones.